If that happens, the Middle East will forever look different. Think about how World War I started. World War III can start exactly the same way. President Biden today.
From the skies over Asia to the depths of the Middle East, tensions are rising, and the stakes have never been higher. Nations are building alliances, warships patrol contested waters, and whispers of nuclear power loom in the shadows. If the storm of World War III erupts, how could anyone escape this fury? Are we ready for a world that may never be the same?
Attacking Ukraine. You wouldn't have had October 7th with Israel. The Middle East is blowing up. We could be very close to World War III with these characters that don't have any idea what they're doing.
America, Russia, and China are the powerhouses of the modern world. Their influence is unmatched, and their military and economic might shape the global landscape. Each of these nations holds immense control, and when their interests clash, it sends shockwaves across the planet. These superpowers have a history of rivalry, fueled by conflicting ideologies, competition for resources, and the desire to expand their influence.
And kills America after it kills American troops. Well, we're in a different place now. We're in a different, now you're really on glide path towards World War III.
A dangerous place.
A dangerous place, yeah.
Let's talk about incoming.
America is often seen as the leader of the free world, with an economy that has dominated for decades and a military presence in nearly every corner of the globe. It relies heavily on maintaining control over strategic regions like the Pacific Ocean, the Middle East, and Europe. The United States' alliances with NATO and other partners make it a formidable force, but these partnerships are also sources of tension, especially when American interests conflict with those of its allies.
CENTCOM spokesperson, retired Army Colonel Joe Pacino. Joe, thanks for being here. I suppose you're glad you don't have your old job right now. These are tough times.
Russia, on the other hand, sees itself as a resurgent power. It has been working to re-establish its influence in Eastern Europe and beyond, often by flexing its military muscle. The annexation of Crimea, involvement in the Syrian civil war, and growing ties with countries like China and Iran have shown that Russia isn't afraid to challenge the global order. Its vast nuclear arsenal and willingness to act aggressively make it a wild card in any potential global conflict.
We didn't have a strong North Korean-Russian alliance. We didn't have the North Koreans bragging that they were going to build more nuclear weapons. None of that existed.
China has risen rapidly to become America's biggest competitor. Its Belt and Road Initiative has expanded its economic reach, while its military has modernized at an astonishing rate. The South China Sea, a crucial trade route, has become a flashpoint as China builds artificial islands and claims vast swaths of territory. Its growing partnership with Russia and strategic alliances in Africa and Asia makes it a key player in shaping the global balance of power.
Say that Putin makes good on his threat to fire into the U.S. base in Poland without a nuclear warhead.
The interests of these nations clash in several regions. The Pacific is a major area of contention, with China asserting dominance while the U.S. works to maintain its influence. Europe is another hotspot, as Russia seeks to weaken NATO and expand its control over former Soviet territories. Meanwhile, the Middle East remains a battleground for influence, with America and Russia supporting opposing sides in conflicts like the Syrian war, and China seeking access to the region's vital energy resources.
We didn't have Chinese ships ramming our allies on the high seas. All of that has happened over the past 3.5 to 4 years.
War has always been destructive, but modern technology has taken it to a level that defies comprehension. During World War II, the world witnessed the horrors of nuclear bombs for the first time. Those weapons, devastating as they were, pale in comparison to the destructive power of today's arsenals. The advancements in military technology have created a world where conflict isn't just about soldiers on the battlefield, but about systems and weapons that can destroy entire nations in moments.
The Russian-Ukraine issue likely to be a key focus at the G20 annual summit happening right now. We just got this on tape, Mr. Joe Biden's remarks during the first session. Let's listen in.
Nuclear weapons are the most terrifying aspect of modern warfare. The bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki has a combined yield of around 36 kilotons. Today's nuclear warheads can exceed 50 megatons, thousands of times more powerful. grim balance, where any use of nuclear weapons would guarantee the annihilation of both the attacker and the defender. But with tensions rising, the risk of miscalculation or desperation grows, and the potential for catastrophic destruction looms larger than ever. Cyber warfare is another frontier that has changed the nature of conflict. Unlike traditional weapons, cyber attacks target infrastructure, power grids, communication systems, and financial institutions. Imagine entire cities plunged into darkness, hospitals unable to operate, and economies brought to their knees, all without a single shot being fired. These attacks can be used as preemptive strikes, crippling a nation's ability to respond before the first missile is launched. It's a silent, invisible threat that can leave devastating consequences. Advanced weaponry has also revolutionized the battlefield. Drones, once used primarily for surveillance, are now capable of delivering precision strikes from thousands of miles away. Hypersonic missiles, which travel at speeds exceeding Mach 5, can evade traditional defense systems, leaving nations vulnerable to sudden attacks. AI-powered systems add another layer of complexity, as autonomous weapons can make decisions faster than humans, potentially leading to scenarios where machines dictate the course of war. These flashpoints, places where rivalries, resources, and strategic interests collide, are where the first battles of World War III could begin. The Pacific region is perhaps the most likely starting point for a global conflict. The South China Sea is a critical area where trade routes worth trillions of dollars pass every year. China claims nearly all of it as its territory, building artificial islands and establishing military bases to assert control. This has led to clashes with neighboring countries like Vietnam and the Philippines, as well as with the United States, which insists on keeping the sea lanes open. With 60% of America's naval forces stationed in the Pacific, any escalation here could quickly spiral into a full-blown war between the US and China. Iran and Saudi Arabia have been locked in a proxy war for years, supporting opposing sides in conflicts like those in Yemen and Syria. If tensions escalate, Iran could attack Saudi Arabia's oil infrastructure, causing a global energy crisis. This would send shockwaves through the world economy, with oil prices skyrocketing and industries grinding to a halt. The involvement of other nations, such as Israel and Turkey, would only add to the complexity, turning the region into a powder keg ready to explode. War on the scale of World War III wouldn't just devastate the battlefield, it would also wreak havoc on the global economy. Imagine what happens when the systems we rely on, trade routes, energy supplies, and financial markets are thrown into chaos. This isn't just about numbers on a stock market screen. Global trade would be one of the first casualties. Today, our economies are so interconnected that even small disruptions can cause massive ripple effects. A major conflict would disrupt supply chains, halting the flow of essential goods like food, medicine, and technology. Key shipping routes, particularly in the Pacific and Middle East, could become war zones. Imagine factories shutting down because they can't get the raw materials they need, or shelves in stores sitting empty because there is no way to transport goods around the world. For companies and workers, it would mean a grinding halt to business as usual, with millions losing their jobs. Oil prices would skyrocket, and that alone could trigger a global depression. So much of our modern world depends on oil, not just for transportation but for heating, manufacturing, and countless other industries. If key oil-producing regions like the Middle East become embroiled in war, the supply would plummet while demand remains high. The human cost of World War III would go far beyond the soldiers on the front lines. Civilians would bear the brunt of the suffering, as war uproots lives, destroys communities, and leaves a trail of devastation that could take generations to recover from. The impact would be felt in every corner of the globe, transforming the way people live, work, and survive. One of the most immediate effects would be the displacement of millions. Entire cities could be reduced to rubble, forcing families to flee their homes with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Camps would spring up, but resources would be stretched thin, leading to overcrowding, disease, and misery. Families would be torn apart, with many never reuniting. Think about the millions of people who fled during World War II, and multiply that by several times. This is what the world would face. Environmental destruction would make the situation even worse. Modern warfare isn't just about bullets and bombs, it involves weapons that can scar the planet for decades. Nuclear fallout would contaminate land, water, and air, making large areas uninhabitable. Chemical weapons, if used, would poison ecosystems, killing wildlife and rendering farmland useless. Crops wouldn't grow. Clean water would be scarce. So, What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.